slight relief as the prices of diesel and kerosene reduced marginally by 2 shillings per litre of the commodities, even as the cost of super petrol remains unchanged.
Public uproar forces government to revoke Gazette notice announcing increase in charges for government services, but do not celebrate just yet, as majority of the increased charges remain in a fresh notice.
A doctor from Rwanda goes on trial in France on charges of genocide and crimes against humanity, accused of organizing torture and killings during the 1994 genocide in which 800,000 people were killed.
Well, good morning and welcome to this edition of Morning Cafe. My name is Fred Indimuli. How hot is the coffee where you are? In Nairobi, 23 degrees Celsius. Those are the highs today. Lows of 16 degrees Celsius. Chances of precipitation, 60%. So carry your umbrella with you. Chances of rain, very high today. Once more, 40 days to Christmas. We'll continue the countdown.
Finally, it's up 40.
And you know, 40 is very symbolic, yeah? Even Jesus went to the desert for 40 days.
Yeah.
Yes,
40
there's a proverbial 40 days of the thief. And there's also Alibaba and his 40 thieves.
Yes, what is quite a significant number.
Once again, Flo and I continue with Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, guys, and a Happy New Year.
We have 40 more days to keep that.
Well, it's good to have you right here on Morning Cafe this 15th day of November 2023. Of course, you can be part of this conversation at TV47 News on X, TV47 Kenya on Facebook. The hashtag is Morning Cafe. I'm Flora Limuke.
And I'm used to standing in Rungita. So even as we continue with the whole countdown of 40 days to Christmas, so how do you really budget for your festivities and what you're really going to be spending on that? We'll be having that conversation right here. Matters Festival, the whole festive travel budgeting and all that. Also, we'll be having a very interesting conversation when it comes to makeup and all that. You definitely don't want to miss that. Let's get into the big story now.
To our top story now, the government has revoked a Gazette notice issued on November 7th that announced an increase in charges of some government services, including passport, ID, work permit, birth and death certificate applications, to allow for public participation on the matter. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki has now gazetted a new intended charges for the same services, which are to take effect from January 1st next year. In the new Gazette notice, however, the government has made very minimal changes, with most of the charges, such as application of passports, death and birth certificates, being retained as previously published in the notice that has now been revoked. The only significant change, however, is the application for national IDs. The government had intended to increase the fee for first-time ID applicants to 1,000 shillings, but has now reviewed the cost downward to 300 shillings. The fee for replacement of lost IDs has also been reviewed to 1,000 shillings instead of the intended 2,000. In a statement issued on Tuesday, the State Department for Immigration and Citizen Services has now been directed to conduct and complete public participation not later than December 10th. The High Court had already suspended the revoked notice, with yet another petition against the revision of the charges filed on Tuesday. And this story now leads us to our question this morning, and we ask, do you think this latest reduction in proposed charges for government services is sufficient? Yes, do you think this latest reduction in proposed charges for government services is sufficient? You can share your sentiments on our social media pages on X at TV47 News and on Facebook TV47 Kenya. Do you think this latest reduction in proposed charges for government services is sufficient? Let's now get the day's diary.
Well, and on our today's diary, the CS for Tourism, Alfred Mutua, is expected in the Senate this morning. The CS is to appear before the plenary this morning to answer on questions on human-wildlife conflict in Kirinyaga Central constituency in Kirinyaga County, among other issues, before the Senate from 9:30 a.m. this morning. Also this week, the official China Trade Week kicks off in the Kenyatta International Convention Center, and this three-day exhibition is set to strategically cater to the Kenyan market. It offers an ideal business-to-business and business-to-government platform for national and global industry partners, investors and entrepreneurs to tap into the significant business prospects within Kenya's trade and service sector. And this comes even amid that move to abolish visa required to travel to China. And the race to look for the next man of the year in terms of marathon world record holder Kevin Kiptum has made it to the final five athletes for the 2023 Male World Athlete of the Year. The 23-year-old broke the world record by 34 seconds with a time of 2 hours and 35 seconds in the Chicago Marathon in October, and we wish him all the best even as he searches for that specific award. It is also the National Recycling Day. This day is originally started back in 1997 by the National Recycling Coalition. This day is declared each year, which encourages mostly Americans and every other person across the world to recycle, and is nationally recognized. In 2009, the National Recycling Day was hosted by the Keep America Beautiful initiative. Yes, and looking at today in history, on this day in 1988, in Palestinian statehood proclaimed by Yasser Arafat, meeting at Algiers, the Palestine National Council, at the urging of PLO chairman Yasser Arafat, issued a declaration of independence for a state of Palestine in the West Bank and Gaza Strip on this day in 1988. And this comes amid even that war that is going on there, and we do hope that the souls that have been lost there may rest in eternal peace. Yes, that is what we have on our diary this morning, and of course we keep on updating you as time moves by. Let's have a look at the dailies this morning.
Aya, sasa twende magazetini and we kick off with the Standard this morning. My 120-hour ordeal with kidnappers. Who's fooling who? Anjeri, the woman at the center of a 17 billion shilling oil import dispute, says she was held captive in a windowless house for 120 hours and given the option of either surrendering the diesel or facing death, even as other documents emerged, casting more doubts on real ownership of the fuel import load. This is the main story on the Standard this morning, and an image of the woman laying claim to that oil worth 17 billion shillings that was imported, already downloaded from the ship, and the ship has already left the port. Now, who owns this oil? The big dispute persists, and that's a big story there. Other stories on the front page of the Standard. Ruto, Sudan leader, close ranks on peace. President Ruto and Sudanese leader Abdel al-Burhan agreed to work towards all-inclusive talks to find peace in the Horn of Africa nation. The story is on page 5. Elsewhere, Raila wins battle over Kangundo road plots. Just one of the highlights on the front page. This is on the bottom strip. There's also a highlight there of the enterprise pullout inside the Standard. Kipra pushes for contracting policy to spur SMEs growth. On the right-hand side of the front page of the Standard today, KRA loses 791 million shillings tax appeal battle. Judge rules that it was unfair and illegal for taxmen to demand records that are over 5 years old for audit. That story is on page 18. An image there of Airtel 4G. Another highlight on the right-hand side of the front page of the Standard, weakening of shilling pushes up a loan budget. The story is on page 7. Let's move now to the top strip of the Standard. On the front page, long search for police uniform to lift its image. It's a special report on pages 8 and 9 of the Standard. In the business pages, state eats up 74 billion shilling fund at CBK. On the international scene, Xi to meet Biden at US summit. That's on the international pages 21. And in sports, Africa's hunt for World Cup slots start. Stories on page 32, and you could flip over to the back page for more info on this. How does African qualifying for USA, Canada, and Mexico work? 9 teams from Africa will qualify for the 2026 World Cup in North America. Harambee Stars start chase for the ticket with away matches against Gabon on Thursday. And yes, the story on the back page of the Standard paints a picture of the route any African team will take, if at all it wants to take part in the US, Canada, and Mexico World Cup come 2026. And that's a Standard.
I can see in Group F, it's quite a tricky group there. Ivory Coast, Gabon, the Gambia, Burundi, and Seychelles. So fingers crossed.
Oh yeah, I think Ivory Coast is actually a serious contender there. Well, if at all it's 9 teams, so it means 1 team from every group.
Yeah.
Okay.
How about Toboy?
Don't be so pessimistic. You never know. Give me 90. Give me 90.
All right, let's have a look at the Daily Nation this morning. The headline there, just a similar one to what you have on the Standard. Face behind 17 billion fuel and earns import and export enterprises. Also deals in curios and handicrafts. And pictured there is the embattled Anne Jerin Joroge, the businesswoman at the center of the ownership row over the 17 billion shillings consignment of diesel, resurfaced yesterday, claiming a 4-day kidnap ordeal and torture, even as fresh details emerge on her businesses and dealings in Kenya, Uganda, Dubai, Russia, and Israel. But the paper trail raises more questions than answers. And that is the story on page 7 of the Daily Nation. And just to quote what she said yesterday while speaking to journalists in Mombasa law courts, They said I would never see my children again if I dared to provide false information. I assured them that my statement at the DCI was truthful. The consignment is mine. I imported it from Europe. And, interesting developing story there. Let's have a look at what we have on the right strip of the Daily Nation. Kenya paid 2 billion shillings for loans it didn't get, says Nyakango, and taxpayers paid 1.89 billion shillings as commitment fees between July 2022 and September 2023 for loans that have never been disbursed to the country. Controller of Budget Margaret Nyakango revealed. There is a story on page 10 of the Daily Nation this morning. For no respite for Budalangi families as floods will never ebb, and local residents are still awaiting for the day when they will say bye-bye to floods that have caused widespread destruction of homes, crops, infrastructure and livelihoods, as well as posing huge health and environmental risks. And that is the story on page 2 and 3 of the Daily Nation Matters. Floods and El Nino and the heavy rains that are being experienced countrywide. And it wasn't me. Murkomen blames Jubilee for leaking roofs at JKIA. The transport CS Kipchumba Murkomen yesterday blamed the leaking roofs at JKIA on neglect and poor workmanship by contractors during the previous regime.
How interesting can that be? This excuse will never get tired.
Yes.
I think they just got the best excuse.
Yeah, it's Uhuru, it's Jubilee.
The previous administration. It is more than a year. It is 14, 15 months down the line.
Yeah.
Because in this airport, a tourist from, let's say, Germany, who doesn't know Jubilee administration exists, is coming into this airport and they're seeing a leaking. They don't care who.
They just know.
Then again, even if the previous administration failed in some way, you've had 15 months
to assess,
to actually change and fix some things, and all you can resort to is blaming the previous administration. That's really sad.
Now,
to be honest, we need to call them out.
Absolutely,
say, we can no longer take that excuse.
Right? You just tell him. You remember the council during the petition who just said, move on.
We can no longer
take that. It is time to move on from the previous regime, from Jubilee, from Uhuru Kenyatta. I think Kenyans are just tired of that song every day. Just can people take charge?
Yes, and take responsibility really on. Because I'm curious, as we step into 2024, are these leaders still going to be using the same?
Believe you me, I think that's a chorus that we'll see throughout these 5 years.
So still 2027, they'll still be telling us.
Blame the handshake. What we have on the parenting pillar this morning, gender roles in marriage, who does what? Interesting one there. Something to definitely look up to. And Kindiki now revises fees for IDs and passports. The Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki has revoked a Gazette notice that increased fees for key documents such as identity cards, passports, birth certificates, and government staff badges, some as much as 20 times to allow for public participation following a national uproar. And in a new notice, Professor Kindiki announced revised charges allowing Kenyans until December 10th to submit their views. Another story on the top page of the Daily Nation, regional power play ahead of UDA polls. And a twin plot by Mount Kenya region to have a single deputy party leader and the SEC-Gen position in the UDA party has kicked up a storm as politicians from the region have opposed a proposal to have 2 deputy party leaders, insisting on reserving the position for Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, and that is the story on page 4 of the Daily Nation. Let's have a look at what we have on the back page of the Daily Nation this morning. Kenya-Romania signed deals on climate and agriculture, and these agreements will extend their benefits to the East African and African market at large as we now consolidate our markets. Yes, another story there, Nyambari students chase away exam officials for harassment. In Matters Sports, Cameroonians bring the battle to Kenya's doorstep as the two countries eye qualifications to the 2024 FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup. Yes, and that is what we have on the Daily Nation. Gazeti la Taifa Leo, my People Daily.
Right, real quick on, I'll take a look at People Daily as well as the Star because of time. The 17 billion fuel saga still making headlines. In another paper, this is People Daily, the front page. Woman claiming she owns the imported diesel resurfaces in Mombasa. This story is on page 4. We've extensively talked about it. Fred will be talking about it with his panelist extensively. Below that, on the bottom scroll there, they have the photo of Romanian leader who's in Kenya, Klaus Wana, inspecting a guard of honor at State House, Nairobi, yesterday. On the right side of that bottom scroll, 85 million Kenyan shillings still missing from Quickmart money heist. Okay, and top there, police start a probe of exam leaks in Kisii area. And finally, petrol prices unchanged, kerosene and diesel drop. Pressure over cost of living likely to have influenced reprieve that will last till mid-December. That is at the top scroll there. We'll be getting to People Daily later on when you take a look at the cartoons. Let's go to the Star this morning. And on the front page of the Star, the big story is a very interesting story. Kalwale reveals silent battle by Musalia and Rigathi. So they're going to say the war within. And Senator says Ruto's successor will be a Luhya and not DP. I'm reminded by my director, who comes from Shamahoho, that it's Khalwale. Kirinyaga Senator dismisses Boni, says he brought no votes to Ruto's campaign. That is on page 2. At the bottom scroll, they have some sad pictures there of the floods, and this is in Turkana. It's a dry one moment and a deluge the next in Turkana. Lorry there, trying to cross one particular road, but is submerged by the floods there. On the left side, real quick, prepare your passports for jobs abroad. That is according to PS. Shadrach Mwadime, who's saying many qualified Kenyans have been missing out on the advertised opportunities due to lack of passports and police clearance certificates. In matters legislation, just below that, on the left strip there, new bill to tame erratic transfer of civil servants. And, well, finally, at the top scroll, still that story on 17 billion fuel saga. Powerful figures behind woman in controversial 17 billion Kenyan shillings oil cargo on pages 4 and 5 of that story.
Tuangazie gazeti la Taifa Leo sababu ya muda. Habari kuu pale, UDA mlima waonya Ruto. Njama ya eneo ya mlima Kenya kutaka chama cha UDA kuwa na naibu kiongozi mmoja na eneo hilo kumezea mate wadhifa wa katibu mkuu imezua dhoruba ndani ya chama tawala. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa 4. Habari zingine, vidokezo vingine kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Raia wasaga meno Gaza sababu ya vita. Masaibu ya Anjoroge mikononi mwa kikosi cha DCI. Habari yenyewe iko kwenye gazeti zote leo. Kwingineko, mwanajeshi kizimbani kuwa mkewe na majengo kubomolewa tena Eldoret. Hizo ndizo habari kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo, na kwa sababu ya muda wacha niangazie gazeti la Business Daily pia. Puzzle of 1.9 billion Kenya shillings paid to undisbursed loans. Budget calls on Treasury to be transparent on debt. Government advised to review some IMF policies. Another highlight, state cuts cheap alcohol to military by 40% to fight abuse. Interesting. Wale wanaelewa mambo ya AFCO. And those are the stories on the front page of the Business Daily today.
Well, let's cross borders and look at the Daily Monitor this morning in Uganda. The headline there, government draft a law to scrap 25 agencies. And the government long-standing plan to rationalize and merge dozens of its agencies has been pending because the entities were created by law which only Parliament can repeal or amend to effect intended changes. That's the big story on the Daily Monitor this morning. On the top strip of the Daily Monitor, too early to withdraw troops from Somalia, says UPDF. Other matters, security beefed up at DRC border. And still on the Daily Monitor, on the lower strip, flooded rivers killed 3 in central region. And away from that, just a pull out there is decorating homes for Christmas, a fading culture. That's the stories on the Daily Monitor. And on the top page of the Citizen in Tanzania, youth farming scheme set for $100 million boost. Other matters on the Citizen, South Sudan clears EAC arrears of a summit. And another story on the Citizen, why 10% of animal species in Tanzania face extinction. Yes, and those are some of the big stories on the Citizen this morning.
Hatimaye gazeti la Mwananchi, wasanii mateja kiama kinakuja. Kamishna wa mamlaka ya kudhibiti dawa za kulevya afichua kuwa na majina ya wasanii wote wanaojihusisha na dawa za kulevya. Maabara maalum kutumika kuwapima na kuwachukulia hatua bila kuangalia umaarufu wao. Je, wajua wasanii wote ambao pale katika nchi ya Tanzania tumia dawa hizo za kulevya? That marks the end of that paper review. Can get into the cartoons this morning. You can flip with us on page 12, The Standard, page 17, Daily Nation, as well as page 10, People Daily.
Okay, let's start off with The Standard. On page 12, the cartoon matters Middle East, what's happening with Israel and Hamas. And they're saying that this is a tactical pause to allow for aid in Gaza, talking about the ceasefire. Yet it's taking a ceasefire to refuel in readiness for more attacks. And gentleman there, Bibi, caricature of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. That's a cartoon on The Standard today.
Well, on the Daily Nation, it's a caricature that depicts what is really going on in the Kenya Kwanza and also the UDA House at large, and just the leaders throwing barbs at each other. You see some pictured the likes of Nandi Senator, we see someone who looks like CS Kipchumba Murkomen, the likes of Kimilili MP, the likes of the DP, the likes of the Prime CS. It's just people, just the disorganization within that house, and everyone just wants to throw shade or eggs on each other.
The fighting has already started in
Yes.
UDA. And you should see the tweets. Yesterday it was interesting after the CS for Transport said, blamed the Jubilee administration for what is happening at JKIA. One of his biggest critics there was the Senator for Nandi, Samson Cherargei, saying that 1 year later you cannot be giving us excuses.
Man, it was a nasty.
It's very interesting to see how things are turning out.
And funny enough, the Nandi Senator is always at the middle of everything that is happening. One day it is with the Nandi governor, the next minute with CS Murkomen, the next minute it's with someone else.
And speaking of the passing of blames, on page 10 of People Daily, Stano goes with a satirical piece there, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. But this time it is chaos and all that. And someone in that tower, the watching tower, says, passengers and aeroplanes trying to locate the leaking JKIA. So there are numerous aeroplanes there and people with parachutes trying to land, but it seems that actually JKIA is flooded. Wow.
I think that thing is...
1 year later.
It depicts a very sad picture. Honestly, for an international airport, you need to do better.
This is a state of the nation. The state of our nation, our great nation of Kenya. We'll be looking at some of these headlines and a lot more with my panelists this morning after the break. Today, we'll be having Dennis Anyoka, lawyer and political analyst. Josephat Kamanya, political analyst, also joins us for this conversation, as well as Bina Maseno, governance and inclusion advocate. She's also the executive director, Badili Africa. Do stand by for that. And a quick reminder of our question this morning. Still based on those changes, the second Gazette notice issued on the new charges for government services. And we are asking you, do you think this latest reduction in proposed charges for government services is sufficient? Continue interacting with us and following the show on our social media pages, on X at TV47 News and on Facebook TV47 Kenya. Do stand by for that conversation. You're watching Morning Cafe. Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV 47 with me, Fred Ndimuli. We now want to take a look at the headlines, State of the Nation, and we're privileged today to have in studio, let me start off my immediate right, Dennis Anyoka, lawyer and political analyst. It's good to have you in studio. Karibu sana.
Pleasure.
Next to Dennis, we have Bina Maseno, governance and inclusion advocate, also executive director, Badili Africa. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
And Josephat Kamanya, political analyst, also on this panel. It's good to have you in studio.
Thank you.
The big headline today has this face of this lady, Anjeri, who has been on the headlines this entire week to do with that fuel importation saga. And she's talking about her 120-hour ordeal with kidnappers. That's on the front page of the Standard. The face behind 17 billion shilling fuel. That's the front page of the Daily Nation today. I think it's only the Star. Even the Star has her on the front page. People Daily as well. Mystery deepens in 17 billion shilling fuel saga. A lot has been said in that story, and we will not even delve into the details of this story. But there's a lot to be said about issues fuel in Kenya today. Yes, EPRA yesterday issued its latest price review for the month of November to December. Not much change in as far as petrol prices are concerned. A slight reduction in the price of diesel and kerosene by 2 shillings a litre of that commodity. But when it comes to the general handling of fuel by this government, it appears quite untidy. The handling of this whole deal, Uganda's already changed its plans for fuel. Now, importation of fuel, we see a lot of issues with this. G2G was supposed to bring some sanity, government-to-government deals. How come we're now seeing this kind of tacky behavior, especially when the government has intervened to bring sanity in this situation?
You know, my assessment of the issues around policy, issues around fuel, is that government has never been fully prepared to tackle the issues in the fuel, you know, in the oil industry. It has been a situation where government just reacts to a situation. If you go back to the history on how we started having the issue of fuel being controlled by the government itself setting prices, you remember that is a departure from the ordinary policy framework in terms of how market prices are set, where the demand and supply applies. In this case, we have a government institution setting up prices. The initial, if you remember during the Michuki time, the late Michuki, it was a situation where government was supposed to come in and moderate so that the taxpayers or the Kenyans do not get exploited by the oil marketers. But what we saw was more of the institution taking up this matter, and it became more expensive as we went along. Government in the process indicated, of course, the previous government, the previous regime, decided to put in the measures of saying they're doing some subsidy. When the current government administration took over, they were very clear. There were no subsidies. They removed the subsidies. But you are seeing right now, there is an indication they're doing subsidies to this oil, you know, all entire oil market. Now the question is, what informed the previous decisions? What has changed? And why are we back to where we came from in terms of subsidy? What is it that Kenyans are not being told? It tells you that most of the people within government, and I'm very sure nobody could fault anyone to think that people are actually using the oil industry to make business, mega business, benefit from it. They change goalposts. There's not, thinking through the entire process in terms of the benefit the country gets, in terms of policy, before a decision is made. They start from what we benefit from it. Mm-hmm. Once you realize that you get your deal in it, then you go for it. However costly it is to Kenyans, whether it's sustainable or not is not an issue. It's not a well thought out policy framework within the entire oil industry. Remember, that is a very profitable business for a long time. In fact, when we see this kind of lady getting harassed, it's not because of any reason, it's because this is really profitable. If in the next few days, maybe who knows that if we hold back and we get this oil sold out or given to the market in the next 1 month, somebody within knows that they will make a profit margin of 30 shillings, 40 shillings, 100 shillings. So when they know that, they'll want to take advantage, whether they get back money or whatever happens, but somebody is going to benefit in it.
Okay. And as you mentioned, yes, I can refer to page 6 of the Standard where they're talking about the new fuel prices, and they're saying that without the subsidy,
yes,
what they're calling a fuel stabilization fund,
yes,
to this administration, then the price of super petrol would have gone up to 229 shillings. And so that subsidy or stabilization fund has really helped, at least 12 shillings a litre of petrol. Bina, back to the issue of how this administration is handling the fuel issue. A lot can be said about government intervention, and in history, whenever government intervenes in issues that should ideally be left to market forces, there's always a problem. Even in the importation of grains, maize, there's always, after importation, then there are complaints, issues to do with corruption emerge. Are you foreseeing something similar, especially with this government-to-government deal that was supposed to remedy a lot of issues, but we are yet to see the benefit?
I think first of all, I've been keen to understand, like what's the regulatory framework when it comes to the issues that we're seeing emerging right now. And also the fact that we are delaying in stabilizing, whether it's the fuel or the electricity, yet we know very well these are very, very key drivers and affect the economy, whether when it comes to access to food or just access to any product is affected heavily by fuel or electricity. So even as we talk about stabilization and subsidy, and I think there's some subsidies that were even being discussed in Parliament that they've been removed, and my worry is there's just a lot of talk, but when it comes to action and cushioning citizens, I think I just agree with what he's saying. It's much more reactionary. Like if today we are up in arms about UNGA, then tomorrow we'll see a reduction in UNGA, but then the other things remain as is. And then tomorrow if we are up in arms about another thing, but then we're not seeing like a long-term plan. And that's my worry. Like what's the long-term plan? So we have all this short-term measures. It's like just putting a band-aid on a wound. But then what's the long-term measure to ensure that you're not suffering from that same wound? Yeah.
And it must be out of necessity for this administration to intervene in some of these issues. During campaigns, they said that government should not meddle in matters business. Things should be left to market forces. This administration has accused the previous government, the Jubilee government, of propping up the shilling artificially, of using subsidies as government intervention to change the market forces, especially when it comes to fuel prices. But we are seeing that they too are facing the same pressure to intervene in some way. Government to government was such kind of intervention. But it is still not producing the kind of results, as Bina said. The benefit to Mwananchi appears way far.
Well, morning, Fred, and morning to our viewers. And even as the fuel prices keep on fluctuating, I want to urge all the motorists and the road users to share the road responsibly. I think to your query, it's true, indeed. There has been a call to try and stabilize the fuel prices. And again, indeed, there was a call not to interfere with the market forces when it comes to such commodities. But we have to agree that fuel is one of the greatest economy movers. If left to the will of the traders, such as the lady and her like, I think Kenyans are going to suffer a lot. And the economy will take a huge blow. Therefore, fuel must remain, for now, must remain as a controlled commodity. And that's why you see the setting of the prices. And the stabilization or the subsidy is necessary for now. What actually I'm worried about is how this lady became a person of interest, because this is not her first consignment of fuel to come into the country. So why now? That is a question that we need to look into, because also we have to be wary of the conduits that could be behind her. And there is all these concerns of money movement, and I don't want to say laundering, but there is a concern because fuel industry is a huge industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. If it goes untamed, it can land us into problems as a country as well. Remember also, Years back, and I don't know what my colleagues think, we had our Turkana oil. What happened? You know, the exploration project just came and died off. Where would we be if we had discovered our oil, and we have oil in Kenya that we can tap into? But by and large, I think it is in order for the government to continue controlling the fuel prices. The ERC needs to step in, and I think right now a bit firm, and try to push this fuel pricing down, because we can stabilize it now. Watu wanasema tumesimama kama bei ya mafuta this morning. But you see, the common mwananchi is still not feeling the shift. Well, it's 2 shillings or 10 shillings. The fuel is still above 200. You know, that is going to have a ripple effect. The snowball effect is that the cost of production is going to go higher. We might be producing more food, maybe now and the next season, but other things are not directly going down because of having more food, you know. But fuel is one of the non-food essential commodities that drive an economy. We need to look critically into that.
Incidentally, when you see such headlines about a scandal or something that looks like a scandal building up, there's always a lot that is not spoken about. There's a lot underneath this rug. When the country is facing this kind of upheaval, especially on matters fuel, and you see a scandal growing, it's an indication that something will pop up after a while.
Fred, you know, this country is, if you remove scandals from the word Kenya, I think we will not have a country. This far, every Kenyan knows that anything the government is doing, we can only give it time before we are told so much government money was used, so much was lost in the process, and that is it. And somebody has benefited. I believe all this is stage managed just for somebody to get money. And this is not far-fetched. We have seen it literally in every, as you said, every government intervention. What I don't agree with my brother is that oil has to be tamed by government. They have to put their hand in it in the manner they are doing to control it. They have to do the subsidy in the manner they do it. I don't see if that is necessary. Why do I say that? Yes, oil is one, fuel is one of the essential ingredients of an economy. It is a mover in the economy. But is that our greatest pillar in terms of economic growth in Kenya? No. We are an agrarian economy. Agriculture is a major activity in this country.
Fuel as a huge component of that.
I agree with you. But then how does that affect our growth? If the country really wanted to move forward and we focus on the agriculture itself, how then will we do it? Remember, for every litre that we buy, about 79 shillings go to taxes. If you look at what Kibaki administration did at the time when it came into power, they zero-rated a lot of commodities, essential commodities, which made it the production even more possible. We had many people doing activities, doing businesses. You remember that is the time the mobile phones became something, it became cheap, affordable, communication became better. We had the issue of the border business coming in, a big mover within the industry, and we had the economy growing. We have a situation where government believes you tax more, control, increase the taxes. They just increased from 8% to 16%. You are taking more money from the pockets, and you expect that the miracles will happen. No, it won't. You expect that you tell Kenyans that, look, we have given you fertilizer at subsidized cost or affordable, and therefore we are going to get a better yield, will become better. I mean, that is simply a lie, because it's not just about fertilizer. There is a lot of aspects that go into that farming if you expect a result to come. There is the aspect of value addition, even to what we are producing from, as raw materials, as direct food from the farm. Are we even doing anything on the production? And if we were to do something, what will that mean? We need the same fuel. That nothing has been done by government to ensure that industries can cut their costs in terms of value addition, or even the farmers themselves in terms of what they're doing in the field, there is improved yield. Remember, we have a government which tells you, well, we've given you fertilizer, and we hope you'll get a good yield. But they tell you, look, there is no El Nino, so we don't get prepared for the heavy rains. It comes, it destroys the crops. It will rain and the water goes uncollected. We are relying on God's help. Luckily, we have a very prayerful government. We hope it helps. We are relying entirely on the prayers and God's help for the rains, for a miracle to happen, for the next year to have a better yield, for Kenyans not to die, that we have this, it's not El Nino, we think it's heavy rains, but soon after you declare that, we get the news to see in a day or two, in a week, we have lost 50 Kenyans to the rains.
Okay.
And we are not about to end that. We are about to see that for the next few months, a few weeks. We see that if you project we are losing 50 people or more as we go along, you are told in your workforce, in Kenyans, we are likely to lose quite a number of people. We are not prepared as a government.
Okay.
Then this does not augur well with a government that really wants to use fuel as a control measure to ensure the economy goes forward.
Is it time for the government to step back and allow market forces to take charge of fuel? This government-to-government deal does not appear to be bearing the kind of fruit that had been expected. And if at all, private businessmen and women like Anjeri are able to import fuel, there could be more of such business people, because we do understand, and even the central bank has already said, that global fuel prices have dropped. Tanzanians are already getting the benefit. How come we are not, yet government intervened?
So two things, and I just slightly want to piggyback on what he's mentioned just before I lose that, and then of course tied into what you're saying. I think first of all, even when you look at this country, we have a very, very beautiful blueprint. When you look at Vision 2030, most of the things that we discuss, even about development, progress, where we're supposed to do, what we're supposed to do, where we're supposed to be, is very, very, very well outlined in Vision 2030. Even when you look at agriculture, some of the things that we argue about, like we don't even preserve the excess food sometimes that the farmers have, the inputs, value addition, are very, very well outlined in the Vision 2030. But then implementing that very document is becoming a challenge, and we already have it. It's not like like we don't have a plan. We do have a plan, because when you look at that sector in itself, even when you talk about fertilizer, is it any wonder that we graduate about 1 million young people who are coming into an industry where there are no opportunities for them, yet they don't even consider agriculture as a platform or as an area they want to invest their creativity, their energy in, because they're not even seeing their own parents having a return on investment who are farmers. You go to up country, like if sometimes when I'm in my up country, like in Kisii, in Nyamira, and those areas, and I even see very many young people selling their small portion of land to buy a boda, like literally, So all of you've decided, what, we're just going to divide our portions of land and buy a boda, because you're not seeing a return on the tea farm. You're not getting enough from your shamba. So if there even no incentive for a majority of the young people who are jobless to invest in that sector, what does that actually say? And then another thing, when you talk about food security and you see the wastage, in this country, and you're seeing kids even missing school because of a meal or because they're going to look for a meal. You're seeing children even joining their parents in their hustle because they have to put food on the table. In a time where you're even having to decide which meal do I sacrifice, which meal do I take, you see. So when you think about all these challenges, and then we just can't narrow it down to one thing. You can't narrow it down to just fertilizer when there's even no value addition to the products that we farm, when our own products cannot even compete even in Tanzania. 2 years ago, I think I went into farming groundnuts and a few items, together with my mom. And I remember by the time we were harvesting, we could not compete with the prices from Uganda and Tanzania. Like the groundnuts that came in literally were half the price of what we were selling our own produce. So you can imagine, and us were just a micro farmer, like literally, this is not even something you do as this is not like your 8 to 5. This is something you're doing as a side hustle. And you cannot compete with the products infiltrating and coming into the country, and sometimes illegally. So what about a farmer who this is the only thing they're depending on, you see? So I think when it comes to that, we just can't talk about one thing, but we need to talk about how are we ensuring that there are incentives, first of all, to invest in the agriculture sector, but also that our products can compete in East Africa, because they are not currently, So that's that. But just briefly to add on to what the issue that you're raising, I still think, I'll still disagree a little bit. I think there has to be measures put in place so that today I don't come in with my product and I say, I'm going to sell this cup at 500 shillings when I know it's supposed to be 100 shilling. I still think there still needs to be measures put in place. But even as we say that and we follow up this case, I worry about the enabling environment we're trying to create for especially investors and especially local investors. Because when I saw this case, it reminded me even of the Keroche story. You remember when I think they turned off, is it electricity? And we had a lot go bad because, you know, if you don't have electricity and you're preserving your product, that is used to preserve your product, then how much are you losing per day? And I remember her saying about the amount of resources or money she was losing per day just because they decided to turn off electricity for one day, for just 24 hours. Mm-hmm. So it just begs the question also of whether we are creating an enabling environment, even for just local investors to say, I actually want to invest because either I have the bandwidth to bring in this product in the country, and whether even when they bring that product, if you see such kind of interference, if actually it is true, if you see such kind of interference, how is it supposed to encourage local investors?
Okay.
Yeah.
You're watching Morning Cafe, and of course you can interact with us on the conversations we're having on our social media pages, on X at TV47 News, and on Facebook, TV47 Kenya. After the break, we'll be looking at matters politics, the divisions within UDA. UDA elections are coming up next month, and already Mount Kenya is demanding that the position of deputy party leader be retained for their man Rigathi Gachagua. That after the break. You're watching Morning Cafe. Watching Morning Cafe on TV47 with me, Fred Ndimuli. I'm still in studio with Dennis Anyoka, Bina Maseno, and Josephat Kamanya. I want now us to move the conversation to some politics, and I'll refer to the front page of Taifa Leo. And on Taifa Leo, UDA Mlima waonya Ruto, njama eneo la Mlima Kenya kutaka chama cha UDA kuwa na naibu kiongozi mmoja na eneo hilo kummezea mate wadhifa wa katibu mkuu imezua dhoruba ndani ya chama tawala. Issues to do with the elections, party elections, these are something, it is very foreign to us, especially to the younger generation who did not witness the days of KANU when party and grassroots elections were the in thing, and they were the main thing. And people could rise from the grassroots level to national leadership simply by being a member of a party. Now, the UDA party is promising that that is exactly what they're going to do this December, but you're already seeing divisions. Already people are complaining it is too soon, these elections should wait. Now, there's a row over the position of deputy party leader. There are some who feel there should be two positions. Mount Kenya feels if you do it that way, then you will be weakening the position of Rigathi Gachagua, the deputy president. Don't you agree? It is very obvious. Kamanya.
Well, I think It is not as obvious as it seems, because the essence of party politics is to try and prepare the party to take over government in the next coming election. So let's not be deluded about that. So when you see all these rows about this position and this region trying to fortify their share or their positions, people are trying to align themselves to their oncoming general election in 2027. And there has been a misconception, or sometimes it has worked out for people, that the more you're involved in the party politics, the higher the chances of you becoming a candidate. Because remember, the thorn in the flesh is just the party primaries when they do come. And we have seen that with ODM, which is one of the oldest parties. You know, you see people leading the party when it comes to being a candidate for your area. If you're denied a ticket, people complain, I've done all this work for the party, why are you sidelining me? The same thing that is now playing out, and also playing out nationally, because UDA is a ruling party, I mean, in the Kenya Kwanza umbrella. And well, deputy president is the deputy chair of the party, automatically so. But now if we start to meddle with the party politics and the national politics, we're going to create further division. I think we need to move to a position whereby we allow the party primaries, the party politics to play out. And then as we prepare for the election, then every party is going to have a presidential candidate, the one that is going to be fronting. And then it is going to trickle down all the way to grassroots.
But is it possible to actually separate the two, the ruling party and national politics? If it was KANU, Chama cha Baba na Mama, whatever happened at the party's level reflected the national politics. Is it possible to actually say that two deputy party leaders for UDA will not affect national politics?
No, you cannot. You know, Fred, if you look at the current setup within the parties in Kenya, is that party politics is generally about personalities. And for any political party, their sole aim is to get power. That is where we are as a country. We don't have a political party whose sole aim is to sell an idea. There is no party that has any objective for the country. Their sole objective, how do we get into the State House? How do we take the presidency? How do we get the majority in parliament? How do we get our power people there? Now, that being the case, and Kenyans having understood politics in that nature, so everybody here is trying to get their space within this entire setup. And remember, in this particular case, you have a president who is the party leader. And his interest will purely be, how do I retain power in 2027? And whatever matrix that works, you will not want to lose any of the people within this. And that is why there's that suggestion, there's a politics. And remember in Kenya, when there are people who speak on behalf of the big man. And Ruto may not speak, but there are people who speak, and clearly the president is speaking. They are talking his mind. And sometimes to test, and if there's no serious uproar, then the same thing will be implemented as a policy within the political party, which is the easiest thing because it's the man funding it. It's whereas government is trying to put a mechanism through the Political Parties Act for political party funding, but we know that there's a lot of influence where a party leader has on a political party. So being the case, here is a situation where you cannot separate that level of President Ruto as a person from a political party. We may not have an independent, operation of a political party from the national politics, from the governance and all that. It's not possible in this country because the man at the helm wants to retain power. He has to use the vehicle that is in place and he has to control it. In probably other areas, we have political parties with, if you look at other democracies, we have political parties that as a different system of management, they put their person there. They will withdraw their person from office if at the end of the day when the person deviates from the policy of a political party. But it's not possible in this country. Even if President Ruto today chose to move to another political party, everybody else will move with him. If at the end of the day, Rigathi Gachagua feels unhappy with this, he may end up remaining the deputy president because of the interest for now to hold the team together. But he will be allowed to have his political, whatever it is. Probably the president will frustrate him, but he's going to continue. Okay. It is not about ideas. It's about personalities and the person at the helm. And that is what's happening at UDA. We'll want to have Mount Kenya through Rigathi Gachagua, have another region, which is a block, because going forward, the politics of 2022 may not be the same as 2027, and the Ruto will want to realign himself to a situation where he gets the majority of the votes.
Okay, and a curious headline on the Star today, Halwale revealing silent battle between Musalia and Rigathi. Musalia Mudavadi belongs to a different party, but the push is that they may all fold and join UDA. Bina, this is the nature of our politics, that we talk about communities and how communities are positioned within these parties. It is the same thing we're seeing here, that President Ruto could benefit from a balance, taming some forces or including others to ensure that he's in a better position come 2022. He does have a right to do so. It is his party. Don't you think that probably it's too early for these other people to start laying claim on positions that should be retained for them?
First of all, I wish when it comes to our parties, it would be more about ideology and values more than personality. Because for me, we work heavily at the grassroots, right? And I remember even in the last election, even during like ODM grassroots election, even just in the last elections, that's the first time actually I was trying to understand the grassroots election and, you know, ward chairs, constituency chairs, and how it's really a campaign, like a heated time. People are campaigning to be the constituency chair, to be the ward chair. So when I look at where we find ourselves, even with the ruling party, I think personally, as a citizen, is to also worry about the fact that every other election we have a new outfit. Every other election we have, a new outfit that is not presenting new ideas in terms of where we are headed. Because if it was about ideas, then you'd even see the personalities debating how either you not agreeing with this is going to affect where we are going. But then now we are seeing like, personalities arguing about who's going to hold this position. But I'm not seeing the voice of the members of that particular, party. And it just tells you how parties are managed, because you're not seeing even, so while the personalities up here are debating and arguing, the majority of the members, because a party is about, you're as strong as your membership, you're as strong as the people who come to support you, you're as strong as the coalition you build, the people who agree to join forces with you to forge ahead. So you're as strong as that. And of course, for the president, he has to be very keen in terms of Kwanza, the Kenya Kwanza votes. The same way, even Azimio is as strong as the coalition, because other parties decided either they're going to fold or they're going to just join forces and agree with your agenda. So personally, as these conversations are going on, I would just be keen, and I hope also we're having grassroots conversations about this, because...
And that's a question, because it would appear that with the kind of discussions we're seeing, this position is ours, we don't want to split it, we don't want anyone... It would appear like everyone in UDA is just waiting for another round table division of the positions. The party is talking about grassroots elections, but there's the issue of party membership that Bina just mentioned. Are the people at the grassroots really keen on being members of any political party? This is a party that has been in existence for what, 2 years?
Yeah.
The issue of grassroots election, grassroots politics, does not arise even now. It's less than a month to this said election. Are the people at the grassroots really talking about the elections for UDA?
Hence my call that we need to separate the party politics from the national politics, because if we do not develop and grow our political parties, then we'll continue having an outfit every election cycle, because everybody comes and builds their own bus to get them into government or into opposition, depending on where you land at the end of the day. Unfortunately, currently, I think we only have like 4 really old parties. You have Safina, you have ODM, you have Jubilee, and then...
That has membership at the branch.
A few, but they have been consistently fronting candidates using what they call that grassroots formation. But now UDA is a bigger party. UDA is a new party. It is in the Kenya Kwanza coalition. When we call people to fold for a shop, like the, the Papuaroma party and the Mudavadi party as well, what do you do to the membership of those parties? Right now, we should be talking about UDA nominations from the grassroots, I agree, so that we can even assist, but we can have a delegated system where delegates from the county or constituency are the one who will come up and say, this is the person we want as our chair, as our vice chair.
Or even decide on the party structure.
Yeah, on the party structure. And in time, this is the person we want as our presidential candidate. That has never happened in the history of this nation and the political parties. It is always a person who has the party who says, I'm the chair, I'm going to be the presidential candidate. We need to revert that.
To some level, it happened with KANU, that the National Delegate Conference with KANU always resulted in endorsement of the chair, but yes, it could be manipulated at the top, but at least...
It seemed to have happened. Yes. Now, just like justice, it cannot just happen, it seemed to have been, it must have come out to, it must be deemed to have been served. It's the same thing we need to have. We need to go back to that system, or rather to move forward to that system and graduate our political parties, empower our members. How many times have we found ourselves in a membership list of a political party that you never subscribed to? Many times. You get? So we need to refresh that. The ORPP needs to come out very strong and say, UDA, these are your members, KANU, these are your members, and you, these are your members. And then us as citizens, we need to start subscribing to ideologies.
Yes.
This issue of having individuals run a party, when they move, you are deemed to have been moved by the person, needs to come to an end.
The success of UDA in running any successful grassroots elections will definitely change the face of our politics. But are you confident that that is a move, that they are actually going to have credible grassroots elections, as opposed to just piecemeal apportioning pieces of the party to different regions?
If, you know, you always know the outcome of something through the process that is going through. You see the process so far, the discussions, the operations, the way we are seeing the entire issue unfolding, it's more about personality based. It has nothing to do with ideas. It has nothing to do with the recruitment of people, because that could be the starting point. Recruit members genuinely, then set up, a framework in terms of having the grassroots elections. Then let us go to that election. Let the members who have been recruited, who want to join UDA because they believe in some ideology in UDA. But that takes me, Fred, the same thing that I keep saying. UDA, just like another political party, they don't have an agenda. The agenda starts and ends with getting power. And that is why those who have understood it that way will start by saying, in Mount Kenya, we want the Rigathi. It does not matter. It's not about even they want a person. It was different if they say, for the region, let's even get a slot, so that anybody else, including my brother here, if he wants to vie, and if he's a voter from that region, he says, look, I can also vie to be deputy party leader. Or I can even vie to be a party leader, because I have my popularity, the grassroots members are supporting me, I believe in this agenda, I can articulate it better. That's not the conversation. So when already we start from that ideology where it's about individuals, where we are seeing the discussion about Western Kenya is getting Musalia Mudavadi with the crew van, giving him a position, and that tells you there's no idea. We will not have anything credible. Even if we succeed in doing something like a mongrel of grassroots election, it will be stage managed to achieve a particular objective, to endorse Musalia Mudavadi somewhere, to get the regard in place, to ensure Ruto wins vice 2027 as the presidential candidate. There's no possibility that UDA can go through all this trouble and we get Musalia Mudavadi vying for presidency under that bracket.
If we look at other jurisdictions like Tanzania with the Chama cha Mapinduzi and the ANC, and now even EFF in South Africa, you see a lot of grassroots mobilization. The party members own discussions. Yes. Yeah. We are very far from that kind of party in Kenya. Do you think and you've been involved at the grassroots and looking at that, is it a lack of interest in party politics? The Kenyan voter is least interested. We'll just come on election day and pick whoever we like.
Yeah. So I think that's why I said, for me, I'm not even seeing the grassroots voices, in the whole of these conversations. I'm just seeing personalities. And I think also to what he was saying, it's hard to separate, the party politics also from the national leadership, because especially when the president is the party leader of the ruling party. But to your question in terms of whether we're having these conversations at the grassroots, it's because our outlook when it comes to political parties, you're just looking at this outfit as a vehicle to taking over power. And beyond taking over power, you're not seeing your role in it. So how do we, even as party leaders or just political parties, articulate our value, articulate the vision of where we want to go, where we even form this particular party? And I'm not even sure whether around this table, we know we have about 89 political parties. 89 political parties.
Are you a member of any political party?
I have been a member of two political parties before.
By default, or you actually registered?
Actually registered, and even served at at a leadership position. You see, because I wanted to see what value I can add there in terms of having these conversations at the community. Because we know if you really want to, if you really want to take over power, it's going to take a long time before we have the independent candidates take over power. So it's starting to have those conversations earlier, so we can also hold even the party leadership to account when it comes to some of the promises they make, some of the conversations we are having within the political party. So, and also to think that before you register a political party, you need about 24 offices across the country, right? You need about 1 million signatures. So how are those offices being manned? What kind of conversations are we having there? And that's actually the difference even with the CCM party that we see in Tanzania. We have members who are very, very proud to be part of that party, and then they can articulate, what the party stands for, some of the conversations, or for us, we stand for this, or maybe for us, we are socialists. We are socialists because of ABC. So today, if I say I belong to party X, for instance, how am I going to woo you to join the party if I cannot articulate the value of the party? And you see, half the time we don't even have, even the middle class especially, being part of these conversations, yet they have value in terms of insights they can bring to the party. But you're thinking, when you look at the party, you're seeing it through the lens of just the leadership and not the membership.
Yet these parties are funded by the taxpayer.
Yes.
Political parties are funded directly through the political parties fund. It means, therefore, that the taxpayer should have some level of ownership of these parties. Is it an issue of structure that our parties don't look anything close to CCM? That we are sure by 2027 or 2032 will definitely have a totally different kind of political vehicle that will end up as a ruling party. When you talk about the quality of parties we have, what is it that we need to do as a country for us to get to that level where we have a party that is owned by the general populace?
Well, Kenya is a growing democracy, which by and large bears no comparison with the CCM and the EFF. Because I think we are a bit further ahead. We need to start defining our ideal political terrain that we want to have, and start setting up structures, start defining ideologies of each and every political party. Yes, we have more than 80 political parties in the country, but if you ask any random Kenyan, they'll not give you more than 5, more than 10, because they are not known, one, who leads them, they are not known for what they stand for. So we need to start having ideologies come out, not personalities, because tomorrow, Fred, we can easily start and form a party, a coalition here, and go out, campaign, and get into office. But after that, the beginning of a fallout starts with the party leaders. Just like you're seeing now, there is this call for, no, this region needs to maintain this position, this other region needs to fold shop and join this coalition. We need to walk away from that. Let us define our ideal political platform that we want to run this country on. Because every Kenyan now, we are very woke politically, and every Kenyan is beginning to understand the essence of politics on running the economy of this country. So the more we start to define the structures that we want, the more we start to lay out, the more we start to get committed, not just involved as citizens in the definition and running of our politics, including the party primaries and the party nominations from the grassroots all the way up. The easier it is going to be for us even to hold the government accountable when a government is in office. Remember, we are coming from a situation whereby 30% of registered voters in Kenya did not participate in voting. But now 100% are complaining how the government is failing. Yet already 70% were not supporting this government. That is something did not vote, that is something voted for the opposition. So how then do we balance the equation of being a citizen, being involved not just in the voting on the end, the last day, because the last thing you do in an election cycle is to vote. You need to build up so that when it comes into the selection of the candidates, remember this government is a devolved function. From the governors to the MCAs, the MPs and the senators, how do you get involved as a person to be able to make sure that the MP of choice, because they're going to offer you effective representation should they get into office, is a person who bears the ticket for the party and becomes a candidate, and you have an opportunity to vote for them.
Yes.
There are many instances where Kenyans say, and that's why we have some independent candidates going into office, they're either rigged out or for some reason they don't go through the party primaries. But because the Mwananchi feels he's the person who stands for what I want, they still proceed to vote for them as an independent candidate. So how do we streamline this? We cannot wait until the last day. We need to start now, build up from the grassroots, have effective structures, and then be committed and involved. Then the office of the Registrar of Political Parties needs to be fully empowered and very independent, because you have issues. Like now, if you look at Jubilee, who is the chair, who is the SG of the Jubilee Party? It has been an ongoing qualm for the longest. Such things need to be addressed.
I think also,
yes.
just a quick interjection, is also to say that while we also are criticizing maybe what the parties are not doing and the fact that they lack ideologies and all, it's also for us as citizens to step up and also want to hold those parties accountable and to build them, because most parties actually are shells after election. In fact, when you go to most political parties during elections, they are full of people, full of members.
The question is, why the reluctance to be part of this political process now? Up until maybe 2027 is when you'll see people coming out.
Yeah, so it's because we have candidates running for office. Because now if you have, let's say, Party X has very many other candidates running for office, you'll always see them there with their supporters. And you see, it's because even for those members and even for the candidates, they want something. You want the ticket for this particular party, because you know if you get the ticket for this particular party, you're 50% in, especially if that party is the dominant party in your region or in your area. But then afterwards, you don't see you don't see that level of engagement when it comes to building political parties. And I've seen also, and because I said I've also belonged to like 2 parties before, and that is why you'd have some people say, I've invested so much in this party not to be for me to be excluded, because I've put in my time, I've put in my resources, even when we go to the community. And I remember even registering someone to a political party, I think it was 50 bob or 20 bob. Someone says you have to pay for them. Ask the candidates who ran for office, and especially if you want to participate during the party nominations, you have to register members to the party so that those members can actually come and vote for you. Because you cannot vote for, you cannot belong to Party Z and you're coming to participate in a party primary for Party Y. Okay. But even just getting someone to come and register, they tell you have to pay. And that is a membership of 20 shillings. I think it's actually 50 shillings, 20 shillings. Yes. But you have to pay for all those people. So even most of the people who are within political parties currently, majority of them, it was not that they woke up one day and said, I want to belong to this particular party. It was because of a candidate they were supporting. Yes. That is why they ended up joining that political party.
Is it an issue with the system we've adopted? Because we have quite some good legislation, the Political Parties Act, that we keep amending. We have the Registrar of Political Parties, we have the Political Party Liaison Committee. We have so many structures and organizations that should help us have proper political parties, yet we are not. We have very artificial parties that only last for purposes of elections. After that, nothing else to offer. What is the issue? Where is the gap? It appears it's definitely not legislation.
We have, where we stand as of today, it's not about legislation. However much we amend the Elections Act, how much we amend the Political Parties Act, whatever regulations we come up with, whatever we do today, whether we remove everybody in IEBC and create the commissioners, come to 2027 with the same mindset, with the same political movers who are there now, the same setup. We will have a presidential election dispute. We will have so much money spent by individuals, disgruntled members here and there. We will have nothing changing. It will be the same thing. And it's for a simple reason. You have always had this phrase that politics is dirty. It's as dirty as it gets. Firstly, let me start from what my sister is saying, that for those of us who have run for office, it's your business. You spend your own resources, your own money. So that after you lose, you truly don't have the energy to even leave your village, come back, you have to call Fred and say, my brother, just get me some fuel to move from my village, because I can't move. I cannot afford 5,000 shillings to leave my village and get back to my residential home, probably Nairobi or wherever it is. 2, when we register people, we register them because we want a particular seat. Remember, when you see those officers active, they have not brought themselves there. You'll be surprised in politics. For people even to join you on a meeting, you finance that city. You'll pay for their transport, because they are lunch, and they expect when they go back home, they have an extra 200, 500 shillings in their pockets. So they are coming not because they really believe in you, it's because you have financed it. It's so as artificial as it gets. So where we are wrong is that they are movers. And if you don't do that, you will pale as against, you can't even be visible. So one of the challenges politically is that you want to be visible. You want people to even feel that you are there. we go for just a simple gathering in your village and the president is coming, you'll be surprised that you have to mobilize people. What is mobilization? You need to get 1,000 people, paid 1,000 shillings to come there and even clap for you. Otherwise, you'll stand and your opponent has 3,000 people and they all boo you and you sit down and there's nothing. You won't even give them the microphone. And you want to show that you are there. So you even want that visibility where the people believe.
The issue is called commercialization.
It's commercialization. And who are doing this? They are the movers. When the major political players, and I call them major because they hold bigger offices, they are national in their level, in their outfit, and they have the money. We are talking about UDA, for example, the president and the top leadership. You talk about ODM, you're talking about the party leader and the top brass of a political party. And those political players who have been there for a long time and they have the finances. For a meeting to happen, there's funds released. And you'll be told your MP has gone to the ground to mobilize. Basically, they have taken money and they are organizing a very organized structure. Who is attending? There's a full list that is prepared. Money is given. So when you see UDA in my village and there's a tent and there are 10,000 people there, they didn't just wake up and stop going to farm to come and listen. Somebody somewhere mobilized their presence. Now, if that is the structure, now me at the grassroots, why do you think I should be able to consider Fred, who is not giving me 10 shillings? Why should I? I mean, the Raila is coming and there's team and there's money in circulation. I don't want to.
Are we saying that grassroots elections for any political party is an exercise in futility? Is that what we're saying? That nothing of that sort will happen? One, Kenyans are totally disinterested and the parties are all about artificial mobilization. There's no one who's convicted about their involvement in politics at the grassroots level.
No, not exactly, but we're saying there's more that can be done to have quality conversation about the political party that you belong in and the direction that political party is going. Because currently as it is, it's about the interests of the few majority within that political party. You know, it's just about their interest. Because at the grassroots level, what is a structure to ensure that even if we are having, let's say, community dialogues, how sure am I these concerns that I'm raising here are going to reach the top leadership of the party? Because when I'm there in my little ward, let's say in Kiambu, the party leader is not there. You know, like the deputy party leader is not there. So I'm talking perhaps with the constituency leader and all. But then how sure am I that even the things and the discussions we are having are actually very crucial and they're going to reach the party leadership structure, especially at the very, very top, to, you know, in terms of the concerns of the majority at the community level. That's what we're discussing. Because at the end of the day, if you even see interference, you know, because they're going to happen, you know, they're going to happen and maybe they're going to go well. We're saying maybe. But even with the people who are going to be elected or selected, it's because, you know, if I have this particular person here, they're able to move the interest of the party, they're able to mobilize people. If tomorrow, let's say the president is having a meeting in this community, who do you call upon? Because if the president is coming to my community tomorrow, they'll call upon the leadership, the grassroots leadership, whether it's the constituency, the ward. They have to deliver the numbers. They have to help with the mobilization. So at the end of the day, it's about the interest of the few majority. But it needs to go beyond the interest of the few majority to us having very pertinent conversation. You're a member of this particular party. What do you want to see? You know, either your person is in leadership, and even if your person is not in leadership, they still have influence.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the question needs to be who owns the political party. Is it the party leaders or is it the party members? Because when now power is shifted to the membership, currently it's the party leaders. If I'm the chairman, I form this party, that's my enterprise. That's why you have seen
funded by the
funding has been an issue. People say I cannot close my kiosk. I need to be getting the money because it's a power centered. But now we need to move to membership, so that grassroots nominations do not become an exercise in futility like it has been. We must move from that. Otherwise, we do the same thing over and over. We're going to end up with candidates who are going to go to parliament and no one can question them because the party leader says, I want this. They have to toe the line. But if we have stronger parties, we'll be able to front stronger candidates. And this country is going to be able to have stronger representatives. We have vied for political positions. I've been involved in 2 election cycles, so I understand the grassroots, the mobilization, the party primaries, the formation of parties. I do. But Kenyans need to know, it is until we get involved from the grassroots all the way to the last day of voting, are we only going to have a very effective government? Otherwise, it's going to be the same old. People are going to come in, and we have to find a way of separating party leadership from the grassroots, from candidature for elective position. Because what you're seeing now, my sister Bina would want to go back to her locality and say, I want to be a leader of this political party and serve in this community. But the motive, clearly known, she wants to be a candidate when 2027 comes. And the same thing happens to Dennis. So what happens to now the other people who effectively can form and run the political party matters? Because, you know, there's a lot to do when it comes to establishment of party rules, party nominations, resolving disputes at the party level. Yet that person cannot be an effective leader when it comes to going to the assembly, either the National Assembly or the county assembly. We have to find that balance. It's not going to be easy. UDA is going to try that, and we're going to do our best to make sure that we have a very fluid system. We have to keep trying. Remember,
are you confident that this...
I'm confident on the trial. ODM also...
How would you rate the success? What do you think? They'll be successful, 40%, 50%?
Well, I think even a 30% for me would be a hit. Remember, ODM did a trial on digital party primaries this last time. They chose a region and they did a pilot. For me, that was an act of excellence. For me, that was progress. If it can be harnessed in time, this, you know, politics is a gradual, progressive process. We have to agree to keep on trying.
Okay.
Because if we decide to just be on the roadside and say it's bad, we just have to live with what we have, then how are we going to effect the change that we desire?
Okay.
We must rise up.
You want one?
And you know, like...
Yes, a very quick interjection. That I like the confidence and probably the optimism by my brother here, which is a good thing. But as you believe that we have to keep trying, we have to put in mechanisms to ensure that the trial is an attempt for success, which is my problem.
A genuine one.
A genuine attempt for success. And how do we get that genuine? UDA has an opportunity. First, let the leadership at whatever level, and of course for now there's no distinction between the president and the party leader, it's the same person. Let that attempt be there, that they are not financing to stage manage a process. If then the funds are being given so that we get endorsements, we get particular people in office, then because we want power in 2027, let it be idea-based. If that attempt can be made, then we can think that the party members will have a hold in this. When that is not happening, when the entire, you know, financing is coming from a particular level, when directions are being given from, you know, some quarters, when people are, you know, exiting their political parties, join UDA, because they have this deluded feeling that despite Kenyans having problems with cost of living, still UDA will be the, you know, the party to take us forward in 2027. Then it tells you they will spend money to be seen by the president, by Ruto. My member of parliament has since quit his party of that took him to parliament. Why is he doing that? Because he believes he stands a better chance as a UDA candidate in 2027. And he's going to do everything to mobilize people, to finance, so that he's able to say, I am here. I'm a person who can be able to add value to a political party. Okay. So if we are to remove that and let people say, we think this UDA as a party has good ideas, we want to join as members freely and willingly, then they will have a say in a person to say, there's this saying that says, he who pays the piper, you know,
calls it you.
Yeah.
And interestingly, there's this discussion at the national level now, at the National Dialogue Committee, on non-interference of political parties. If at all grassroots elections are successful, that problem would ideally be remedied, Bina. Don't you think so? That the problems we're seeing with political parties is because they're so superficial and ownership belongs to a few people, such that anyone else does not feel ownership or cannot claim ownership of any major political parties, and they feel free to jump ship anytime.
Again, I think what I've seen, and also the conversations we've held before at the grassroots level, even before this current election, and even from the citizens of the community who belong to political party. I remember in a meeting where we were discussing the role of political parties, even in the nominations and determining who becomes the leader in the community and why we need to engage. And I remember some members of even just the political parties we are discussing today and others that are within the 89 that we are saying that, you know, the challenge is also the fact that more emphasis is put on the presidency. You see, many of us, you know, rally towards getting this president, and we forget that other positions are equally as important. So the spotlight is on the presidency and not necessarily at the community level. So even members feel like, you know what, we're just being rallied because of this one president who has to win. And that's just across many political parties, depending on the candidate they're supporting and what they have fronted. But then you don't feel like the spotlight is shifting to look at what are your needs and what are your concerns, and you don't actually see your direct value when it comes to the party that you have joined, you know. So you don't feel like at the end of the day someone's going to have a conversation with me in terms of, okay, if as much as we are rallying you know, behind this particular president, how are we going to ensure that he articulates our needs? And these are our needs, these are our, you know, these are our concerns. How is our party leader going to articulate our needs? So having that level of conversation, because where I also see the disconnect, yes, we discuss about the quality of our leaders, but we also have to discuss about the quality of the citizenry. You know, what is the quality of the citizens we are engaging? Because if also they're the ones who fall prey to the commercialization of politics, then we'll never have a quality conversation. Because today I'll be a party leader, I'll be a politician, but I'm afraid that if I go to the community, the only thing you'll be waiting for is my 300 or my 500 shillings, and you're not ready to have a proper conversation about how do we build together. So if I know if I come to the, you know, to this particular meeting, I have to part with $500,000 because I'm coming to meet members, then there are very low chances that I'm going to come to the community because you're not ready to have a conversation. You're ready to figure out what time am I going to finish talking, and I give you what belongs to you. Because we also have to put in, not majority, we don't have a majority of the citizens who put in, you know, their time and resources to actually sometimes building, you know, yeah.
The National Dialogue Committee, according to this headline on page 5 of the Daily Nation, will be finishing its report today. So they'll hold a press conference. One of the things they've agreed on, and they've said we've already agreed on, is how to handle this matter of non-interference of political parties. The expectation is that because this was a concern, especially by Azimio, especially with what has happened to Jubilee, that some members jumped ship, and it has caused quite an imbalance and some lack of political hygiene in Parliament, in the Houses of Parliament, and even within ODM, some people crossing the line. We've seen previously the days of LDP, NDP in the 90s, that whenever such things happened, it would occasion a by-election. Are we saying that these things have deteriorated over time, and now the quality of political parties we have in 2023 cannot be compared to those we had in 1997, for that matter?
Clearly, we need to sanitize our politics, our party politics. And I would agree strongly that what we have today in terms of political outfits cannot be compared to the political parties of the 90s. The Safinas, the Ford Asili, the Ford Kenya, the LDP, because they stood for something, multipartism, democratization of our politics. So they had ideologies, and that's why you saw people strongly went to a certain party and they stuck with it. It is rather unfortunate to see much as the government has to run. It is rather unfortunate to see party members of parliament, going to parliament and compromising their party position. And that is what the political interference was being referred to in these bilateral talks. It's not even about the grassroots and the nomination. It's about now you as a member of parliament. If a party position has been granted from your party leader, which now it's what we are still discussing, because also again, at what point do I have my liberty as an elected member of parliament to choose and vote using my conscience, to choose and do what is right for the nation? Because I'm not serving the party when I'm in parliament. I'm serving now all the Kenyans. The member of parliament does not belong to the region when they get to parliament. Legislation is national. But then we also need to have party controls, hence the disciplinary committee at the party level, such that if a directive is given from a party position, it could be an economic decision. It could be, because it's all in the interest of the public policy. and you happen to violate that, what becomes of you as a member of parliament? How do you enforce callback? How do you go to a by-election? How should you be accused of abuse of office? Does the party actually push you to step away and allow investigation to proceed, a fair process, and once you're cleared, you can either come back, or if not, the consequences follow. So we need to have all those structures clearly defined, because what we had back then is what has gotten us to where we are. It will be very unfortunate for us as a nation to regress politically. And this is not just about UDA, it's about the whole political outfit that we have in the nation. Yes. We need to sanitize our politics and define our ideals.
Sanity in our politics. Do you think that grassroots elections would in any way help us sanitize our politics? We've seen situations where even party leaders appear powerless when it comes to errant members. Punishing an elected member of parliament is near impossible right now. If at all the party had proper structure from the grassroots level, even clauses like the recall clauses for members of parliament would be able to execute, don't you think?
You see, what we have a challenge with is not the existence or non-existence of structures. They are there, but they are weak. They don't have the political backbone to withstand some political pressure. You go to a political party for disciplinary process, it is long. We are not even sure how people go to the disciplinary committees. They were appointed by a particular person, they were put there, and that is it. We now have the Register of Political Parties that has should for the longest. The RPP registrar has been in acting capacity. And what does that mean? She's not as independent as she should be. She serves with a fear. She wants to protect her position. And that office has been left in acting capacity for a long time for political reasons, for lack of goodwill, because we want to weaken that particular institution. So you'll find that they make decisions while looking at a particular office. And they were trying to think, like, I think I was reading some article that during the Nyayo era, there are people who could sit and imagine what will the president want, so that they are proactive and try to please that particular person. And it was not like the late President Moi could direct everything. But some people were sitting somewhere imagining, perhaps this is what Mzee will want to happen. And they are now, that is what's happening in acting capacity. You find a registrar who could want to think, how could the appointing authority behave? We have now judges, so sadly to speak, who will make a decision, and even leaders of tribunals, and looking at what could be the appointing authorities, what would be the office of the president, imagine. And we have seen some decisions, we so strongly believe those decisions were made based on those considerations, not truly based on the law and the facts as presented. So it's the weakened institutions. But who is weakening the institutions? We have appointing authorities, we have the president, we have various constitutional offices that directly supervise particular offices. And you find that now we cannot have independent institutions. Why other democracies? We have, what we call hygienic politics. Go to the US, go to other regions. You find that, yes, you are the president, but the other institutions will do their mandate as per the constitution and the law. It does not matter who you are. And that is why we have in the US somebody facing charges. He's been a former president. That is impossible in Kenya to do. In fact, we have made progress that we think even a member of parliament can be arrested and be taken to court. But there are levels we know. That is not even something that anybody can conceive. Okay. It is a difficult thing. So it's the weak institutions, not absence of those institutions. With weak institutions, even if we did the grassroots elections, we'll still land in the same problem. Because for me, in this current setup, the dispensation that we have politically, with the structures we have, it's simply rubber stamping a process. It's simply justification. And I have a lot of respect for Honorable William Ruto, the president, as a politician. He truly knows the politics of this country. He's, I think, for me, one of the greatest politicians we have had in this country. He knows what to do and when to say what at what point. He truly knows that for him to appear, to not to have influenced anything, let the grassroots elections take place. Whichever the outcome, he will say, my friend, Rigathi, and it's very, you can put his comical speech in it. That, you were there, you were just thrashed. So how do you blame me? You are the deputy president, You could not head anything. So you don't blame me. Let's just work together.
Okay, and because of time, we're coming to the end of our discussion there. And yes, the National Dialogue Committee is set to finish its report today, discussing a raft of issues. They say they were agreed on quite a number of the issues that were presented before the 10-member team. One of them is non-interference of political parties, and it is curious. It will be curious to see what kind of agreement they come up with. But now I need to give my panelists an opportunity to give your final remarks. Let's start with you, Bwana Kamanya.
Yes. Well, the rains are here. The farmers are farming. We need to fast track the ideology of county aggregation in industrial parks so that we don't end up with a lot of food wastage upon a bumper harvest. Secondly, let Kenyans get involved. Any political party nominations that you are called for, it is about time we start shaping up the kind of leadership we want by getting involved, coming out and voting and electing the leaders that we feel would start helping us realize the ideologies that we want to see in political parties. Over and above, let's share the road and maintain peace. You know, so no matter what happens, we have one country and we need a stable economy for us to thrive.
Okay. Thank you. Bina.
I think in light of the conversation we've had today, my final remarks would be any process is as good as the people who man that process. You know, so we might have the laws in place, but then who's in charge of implementing those laws? So we also have to discuss the quality of the citizens as much as we discuss the quality of the leaders. And I think to especially the citizens, and when we even talk about grassroots processes, one thing we have to understand is we may not have the big money that we say leaders come with at the community, but our numbers should be our currency when it comes to our voices being heard and when it comes to us negotiating and having quality conversations that can spur up the kind of leadership we want to see that addresses our needs and our priorities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Finally, Dennis.
I think there's one critical issue that I could wish to, in my final remark, just mention. If anybody in government ever wants to listen, Kenyans are bleeding. The cost of living has gone beyond the roof. People are at the breaking point. These taxes and increased charges in every service that anybody wants to get is not serving anybody. We have a lot of unnecessary runaway corruption. Let the president take charge. Let the people in constitutional offices do their mandate. Let civil servants do their work. Let us get rid of this. Otherwise, Kenyans are at the breaking point, and when people get angry and they're hungry, we might not have a nation.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dennis Anyoka, lawyer and political analyst. Bina Maseno, governance and inclusion advocate, also the executive director, Badili Africa, and Josephat Kamanya, political analyst. Thank you so much, lady and gentlemen, for your participation in this panel and for your opinions on the issues we've been discussing this morning. Of course, matters to do with fuel, big headlines on all the major dailies, especially with this lady who's fighting for her fuel that has already been downloaded and disappeared. And also on matters UDA and the regional power plays ahead of the expected UDA grassroots elections which come in December. As we come to the end of this conversation, let me go through the editorial comment this morning. Today we want to address the deteriorating state of our main port of entry, that is the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. The facility has in recent weeks been the subject of consistently appalling headlines. The latest is that viral video showing leaking roofs at JKIA's passenger terminals following heavy rains. Quite a distressing image of our country's primary gateway. To say that we are ashamed and embarrassed is to say the least. We are embarrassed on behalf of our country. We are revolted by the poor response by government officials to this glaring clumsiness. The airport's recurring issues, including power outages and reports of passenger harassment in the name of checking tax compliance, underscore systemic failures that cannot be overlooked. The lack of swift and effective action from those responsible only exacerbates the situation. Their snail's pace response to these complaints amplifies public frustration and disappointment. An airport of the stature of JKIA is not just a travel facility. It is also the first image of our country that visitors interact with when they arrive and the last memory they carry when they leave. The inability to address these fundamental problems at our main airport reflects poorly on the country's commitment to providing a seamless and reliable travel experience for both citizens and international visitors. It is imperative that immediate steps are taken to rectify the infrastructure issues, ensure uninterrupted power supply, and institute measures to protect passengers from any form of mistreatment at the airport. Investing in the improvement of JKIA is not just a matter of fixing a few leaks or power outages. It is a commitment to upholding Kenya's image as a nation that values efficiency, hospitality, and progress, an image that resonates long after travelers depart its terminals. And that is a TV47 editorial commentary this morning.